We just came from Clark County, where they've started a new school resource officer program. And we're here really to show support for the efforts, the local efforts of cities around southwestern Indiana, school corporations and law enforcement. And what we feel is a very important issue, one that the Office of the Attorney General sponsored a bill earlier this year with Senator Pete Miller, which has now been moved to Senate Bill 1, recognizing the attention that the Indiana General Assembly has placed in school safety and in some of the programs that are likely to get a lot of attention due to the tragedies in Connecticut. The Office of the Attorney General has been working on our original bill for over a year and really looked to see what some of the needs were of the local law enforcement and schools that the state might provide additional funding. In our needs assessment, which we've added to the press release, it talks about some of the things that parents and teachers, principals and superintendents, chiefs of police, as well as the interviews that we had with school resource officers around the state, what they felt the local communities needed. So now that we've got Senate Bill number 1, it's obvious that the state of Indiana is going to make some response as the legislature sees fit. Some of the things that we're continuing to encourage, obviously the school resource officer program is one that we started off with and I still think has a very proven record of results with the relationship between students and law enforcement. The stronger that relationship is, the less violence, the ability to get drugs out of our schools, to focus on some of the troubled children that we have in our schools, as well as build a relationship built on trust and the respect for law enforcement, and the criminal justice system. So I think that relationship is one that I'm still focused on. I do recognize that there's a lot of different ideas on what we might do to improve school safety generally. So I'm going to be supportive of the legislature's overall efforts. And I do, the one thing that I would impress upon the legislators is with Indiana's history of a strong home rule state, leaving the decisions to local school corporations, local law enforcement, to address the issues that they find that are most necessary in their communities is still probably the right way to go. There may be quite a bit of difference between some of our rural and urban schools, but recognizing the diversity of the state of Indiana, hopefully Senate Bill 1 will help on an overall agenda with school safety, but also give the authority and a lot of the decisions to our local communities and the relationship that they feel is the best needs that they address. I appreciate a couple of mayors here joining us, as well as members of law enforcement and a school safety presence. So I do appreciate all the support, and I do think that a common voice from the communities to address our legislature as this bill moves forward is something that I will encourage them all to listen to. You have to speak loudly to be heard in Indianapolis, but I'll be in the building encouraging that they listen very attentively. So with that, I'll have Mayor Winnecke, as our local mayor, come.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Attorney General for championing Senate Bill 1 in the State House. Any additional resources the state can send to local communities are resources that will be well utilized. As many of you know, shortly after the shootings in Connecticut, we pulled together a group of educators and law enforcement officials in the mayor's office, and we sat down and talked about what we needed to do as a community to make our schools safer. There were a couple of immediate takeaways. We met again yesterday, and we continue to work down the path on a couple different approaches. First, we're working to immediately have all the school buildings, public and private, in our county reassessed for security purposes within the next few weeks. And secondly, we're working with the schools to ensure that they have common emergency practice procedures so that law enforcement can work with them and train them in a uniform basis. So no matter what building, no matter what agency, no matter what school corporation, everyone's singing from the same sheet of music. So there's a lot of cooperation going on between local educators, that is public and private, as well as local law enforcement, both from the city and from the county.
Thank you, Mayor, and I would like to welcome everybody here this afternoon. Certainly, I appreciate the Attorney General Zoeller's emphasis on Senate Bill 1. As you know, we greatly value our partnership and relationship that we have with the Evansville Police Department, with the Sheriff's Office, and they are tremendous partners. We have highly trained school resource officers in our schools, and that is a direct result of local control. So I appreciate the opportunity to still have local control and local input in this. And I think clearly this has been a local initiative for forever, and I do appreciate the state then being willing to put hopefully some financial resources behind this. Realize it's a 2-year pilot, and my hope would be that it would extend beyond 2 years, because I would suggest the need will extend beyond 2 years. But I certainly want to thank you for that. You know, school resource officer to us is incredibly important because of the relationships that are developed. We have neighborhood schools, and our schools are a reflection of our neighborhoods and society. So if we can have those very important collaborative relationships with our students, our faculties, and members of law enforcement, we prevent things not only within our school, but hopefully we can prevent bad things from happening in our communities. So I think it is an incredible return on the investment. I also want to thank the mayor, because they have a lot of skin in this game, because they fund this. The city funds this. The sheriff's office funds this. And I want to once again thank them for all that they've done. You know, the school resource officer is just a component of our safety and security scheme that we have for all of our students. And we have 23,000 students and 3,400 employees. So once again, it's critically important to us, and I'm grateful for the additional support and emphasis placed on safety and security in our schools. I'd like to introduce Sheriff Williams now.
Thank you. The part I wanted to talk about is, number one, it's pretty exciting when a bill gets the nomenclature of SB1. That means the state's going to take it very seriously, and they see this as a serious problem and an issue to be addressed. So we hope to reap the benefits of the legislature's actions in providing more resources to us in some form or format. Home rule is an absolutely important and imperative, and we need to continue to lobby for that so that we as a community can direct those resources where we best see them utilized. But this is the part where I will tell you that this community is way ahead of the game in a lot of respects. I invited Deputy Gillis to come today. He's the full-time assigned deputy sheriff on the North High School campus. And the reason he's the full-time assigned deputy there is because we very early on appreciated the concept that his presence there is not only a deterrent, but he also builds a strong rapport every single day with the kids, the staff, the parents. There's some place to go to. He knows more about what's going on in that school than just about anybody else, and he can be that person that deals with the prevention aspect of it. You know, we're focusing right now on how to react to something horrible happening. But we always need to keep our eye on the ball and remember that we need to be preventing every opportunity we can get. There are a lot of things this community is doing that people don't realize already. The police department, the sheriff's office, you know, we've changed our model of operating. We've instructed our people to spend every available time, every available minute you have while you're on patrol in the parking lots of the schools. Walk through those schools. Even if you're not the resource officer, have that uniform presence in the school, in front of the school. And just those little things, I think we're making a huge difference. And that's because we have a very cooperative and collaborative community here. There's a lot of communities where you wouldn't see a lot of us standing together like this with our, you know, shaking hands saying, how can we make it a better community? And we're very fortunate here, and we need to feel thankful for that. So we're on the right track. We're doing good things. The meetings that have been occurring have got action items coming out of them, and we're going to see some changes. But we're ahead of the curve. So as a community, my hat's off to ourselves because we're doing what we need to do. We just need a little more help from the state. Dollars. And Chief Bowler.
Thank you. I would have to agree with what the sheriff said. We've been ahead of the curve for a long time. Anybody that's grew up in Evansville, Indiana, you had a police officer in your school when you were growing up, or at least if you're around my age or so. I still have a little certificate in my office that I kept from when I was a little kid, from Officer Friendly when I was in school. So we've had this program for 40 plus years. We have officers assigned to every high school district in town. I had the pleasure of being one of the school resource officers at Bosse High School from 2001 to 2003. And like Deputy Gillis, you do form bonds with these kids. You get to know them on a great level. They come to trust you. They come to your office and tell you about their personal lives, about threats that are happening in the school, and really open up. So I think it's a great benefit to have these officers there. Any additional funding we can get, as the others have said, we definitely appreciate. We don't have enough to cover every single school for the whole school day. So our resources are spread, but I think we are above the curve and we're working at it, and it's a great partnership that we have.
Well, again, I want to echo what Mayor Winnecke and the others have said. Any resources the state can provide to make our schools more safe, our dollars well spent. I'm going to present maybe a little bit to you from outside of the Vandenberg County area. Many people are struggling to provide these resource officers. The city of Huntingburg and our police department and the Southwest DuBois County School Corporation began having discussions early last year about providing a resource officer in our schools. But due to some budget constraints or other things that we couldn't really control, we didn't get that work done for the 2013 budget. But with the tragic events at Sandy Hook, the dialogue between the city and the school corporation took on a new life. And on the very day that we called a meeting similar to the one that Mayor Winnecke spoke about with our school corporation, after that meeting I went back to the office and saw the release from the Attorney General's office about Senate Bill number 1. Many small communities and rural school corporations do not have the resources that the city of Evansville or Vandenberg County has. But our concern for our children is just as great. And I applaud the Attorney General and Senator Miller for promoting the first step toward creating an avenue where all our communities and all our school children can get the great protection that the city of Evansville and Vandenberg County schools have already started to provide. The safety and security of a school resource officer is just one of the benefits we see in our community. As the officers mentioned, the primary purpose is to keep the peace, but it's that relationship that they can build inside and outside the school that goes far beyond just providing a safe and secure environment inside the school. And most importantly, SROs are positive role models. You know, I spoke about the people that you still talk about. My children still talk about the DARE officer they met in their school when they were in 5th grade. And that relationship is something that just cannot be a price tag put on. And while this bill provides funding for the next couple of years, it's our hope that this will be a bridge to a more permanent solution for providing funding for both large and small school corporations, large and small cities, to provide the security that we need inside our schools. While Evansville and Mount Vernon needs are much different than Huntingburg's, I also appreciate the Attorney General's comments that this is very important that we maintain some home rule on how these funds are spent, because we do have different needs, but have that same concern for our citizens.
Good afternoon, and thank you to Attorney General Zoeller for inviting me to participate in this press conference. My name is Cynthia Smith, and I'm the Program Director of the 4-year federal grant, Safe Schools, Healthy Students, in Posey, Gibson, and Warwick counties. I want to tell you a little bit about our work with Safe Schools, Healthy Students, and our success in creating safer school environments, increasing access to both school and community-based mental health services for children and youth, and assisting with the transition to kindergarten for our youngest students. The comprehensive approach has led to a 17% reduction in physical fighting on school property, as self-reported by the students. We've provided over 800 students with school-based mental health services in 22 schools in the 3 counties during the school year. And we've increased the percentage of kindergarten teachers who agree that their students are entering kindergarten with the skills ready to learn. All in all, not a bad day's work, and something we should all be proud of. Which brings me to why I'm here today. One of the things we've learned through our work with this grant is the School Resource Officer Program's work. For the past 4 years, our federal grant has paid for 4 SRO programs in the 3 counties. Through our SRO programs, local law enforcement agencies, in collaboration with the participating school corporations, provided 7,900 hours of service in the schools during the 2011-2012 school year. Our SROs provided 230 classroom presentations on law enforcement, conducted 246 searches, recovered 17 weapons, investigated 59 drug alcohol violations, and made 68 arrests on school property. They investigated 126 fighting bullying incidents, made 194 home visits for school-related issues, and assisted with 169 safety drills. Whew. I guess you can tell they're very busy, and I think Sheriff Williams and Chief Bullen would support that here in Vanderbilt County as well. What do all of these numbers mean? They mean an unprecedented collaboration between our schools, our community, and law enforcement. It is not unusual for parents to call the schools asking for the SRO to discuss issues. But it's not just parents and school staff. Our students report that the SRO makes them feel safer at school. And we all know that students who feel safe at school have higher rates of academic success. It also means that schools have a dedicated law enforcement team. This helps limit the number of officer runs to the schools, keeping our officers on the road in the community, a critical necessity for our rural law enforcement. Southwest Indiana has greatly benefited from the investment made in our community through the federal Safe Schools Healthy Students Grant, with the development and coordination of the school resource officer programs in Warwick, Gibson, and Posey counties. In 4 months, the 4-year grant will go away, and so will the funding for our SRO programs. That is why I want to educate you today on the importance of the SRO programs and the impact they have on students, schools, and communities. We know in order to address school violence, we must have a comprehensive approach with a focus on school safety, mental health services, and preparing our youngest students to do well in school. The SRO, the School Resource Officer Program, is one strategy in helping our state address the issue of school safety for all of our students. Thank you.